Hello and welcome to this Vulval Pain Society research special. Thank you for joining us live now or on the replay. Please say hi in the comments if you are here live. I know a lot of people are probably working at the moment, but if you are here live, please say hi in the comments and let us know that you are watching live. I'm Sharon Gallbear, Vulval Pain Society trustee. And for those of you who've watched these live streams before, you will know I'm also a pain therapist, a clinician coach and pain science educator. So yes, I am excited to hear what our guest has to say today. And you can also pop your questions or comments related to what you're hearing and perhaps your personal experiences if you live with vulvodynia in the box as we go along. Today is all about the patient experience. And I will keep an eye on the comments. I can see a couple of people have already joined. Hi, Marion. Hi, Jax. Thank you so much for joining us live. Now, as many of you know, hi, Michelle. Hi. Lovely to see you. Yes, chuck an emoji at me. I love an emoji. As many of you know, vulval pain is common, and yet research is sparse. Today's guest is turning that around by really vitally listening to the experiences, the voices of people living with vulvodynia. You can hear I'm passionate about this, right? This is so important. Let's welcome Athina Lountzi. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We are so excited to have you. Athina, tell us, you have just completed your MSc in health psychology at Stirling University. As I've mentioned, you know, this is not, although vulval pain is common, we don't have many researchers in this field. So tell me about your background and what led you to study in this area and listen to patient voices.
Yeah, so I completed my undergrad in psychology, and then I was really interested in chronic pain. So I decided to move on to a master's level education and then complete my master's in health psychology and focusing on chronic pain. And I think as a woman, understanding that women's chronic pain is so under-researched, people not paying attention to it. And it just, I think I felt really disappointed, and I thought I really wanted to look into it more because, you know, women live with chronic pain or even painful periods, and that can disrupt their everyday life and their well-being as well. But there appears to be a stigma and embarrassment around these things, and it's really disappointing to see.
So it's the disappointment that's fueled you.
I think so, yeah. When I first read about vulvodynia, I was shocked that as a woman, I didn't even know such thing existed. And I decided that it's important to investigate it more and look into it more.
Now, look, I know this is a short live stream today. We could get into even the terminology that so many people don't even know what the vulva is.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, let alone vulval pain. But you have slides to share with us today.
Mm-hmm.
For any of you watching, now this is, we build this as 30 minutes. I want to reassure you that if we run over and you can't stay for the whole 30 minutes, it's okay. The replay will be up. However, if you stay on the call live, Athina is going to be happy to answer some questions related to her research and patient voices. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to pop your slides up.
Thank you.
There we go. And I'm going to pop myself in the background. You don't need to see me. This is your research, right? But I will be in the background listening, and I'll keep an eye on the comments too.
Perfect. So I did my research project at the University of Stirling and specifically on vulvodynia. So the aim of my project was to explore the help-seeking behaviors and experiences of women with vulvodynia and the role of partner support in help-seeking, but also in general. So I did an online survey and asking women who were both formally diagnosed with vulvodynia by a healthcare professional, or even women who were self-diagnosed. And I also did follow-up interviews. So a total of 56 women took part, and 10 of them were interviewed to provide further insights into what the research was asking. So before I share my findings, I thought it was important to share a bit of a background of vulvodynia. So vulvodynia can be defined as persistent, unexplained pain in the vulva. And there are two types. It could be triggered, pain could be triggered by touch. This is known as provoked vulvodynia, or pain and discomfort could be constant in the background, and that's known as generalized vulvodynia. And as you can imagine, the consequences are several and quite negative as well. So for example, the constant pain and discomfort can lead to increased rates of anxiety, depression, as well as low self-esteem. And considering the nature of the pain, it could also have a negative effect on intimate relationships, and as well lead to sexual dissatisfaction. It could have a negative impact on women's everyday lives, so ability to exercise, to wear certain types of clothing, to be able to sit down for a long period of time, or even traveling and working. So what causes vulvodynia is not known, as it is thought to be different causes for different women, but it is thought to be multifactorial, meaning that a combination of many factors, both physiological and psychological, can influence women. Here's the diagram of how, for example, the physical cessation of pain could lead to negative emotions, which can then lead to negative thoughts about the pain and the consequences of the pain, which then can lead to negative behaviors. And that all is interlinked. So for example, the negative behaviors could lead to even more negative emotions, and then even more pain and negative thoughts, and so on. Unfortunately, vulvodynia is largely underdiagnosed and a misunderstood condition, and it has poor treatment options. And that could be because of the many different factors that can cause vulvodynia for women. There's also vulvodynia is diagnosed through a process of exclusion of other possible causes to the pain, and that could lead to a delay in obtaining a diagnosis. What is really important to mention is that women have to persist in demanding care and in order to obtain a diagnosis and to get treatment for their pain. And with many women report experiencing injustice from the healthcare system because their symptoms are being minimized, they're being misunderstood, and they feel like as if they're unbelieved and dismissed. So they report a lack of compassion and understanding while having to be in a constant battle to fight, to be heard, and to get an explanation of why they experience pain. So this is why it is important to understand and explore what factors influence the help-seeking behaviors of women and what can be done to improve healthcare access. So of course, considering the nature of the pain in vulvodynia, partners' roles should not be overlooked. Because partners may trigger pain during sexual activities, they also witness the pain and have their own reactions. And of course, women's sexual dissatisfaction because of their pain and discomfort should also be considered, because they might feel as they are inadequate partners. Previous research has shown that more adaptive responses to the pain, that means that partners who are positive and encouraging women to manage their pain and their symptoms, this has been shown to be associated with lower pain and depression, as well as anxiety, whereas low partner support has been associated with negative consequences such as pain catastrophizing and increased pain intensity. So, as I mentioned before, my research aimed to explore the help-seeking behaviors and experiences of women with vulvodynia and the role of partners. So I'll just go through the findings now. So the majority of the women who took part were formally diagnosed, but 5 of them, out of the 56 women who took part, 5 were reported that they were self-diagnosed. And an average of 2 years between symptom onset and diagnosis was also reported. So considering that some women were self-diagnosed, as well as the long time of 2 years to receive a diagnosis, it could be argued that seeking help for vulvodynia is time-consuming, is a long process, and it also could be quite challenging. So when women were asked in the sample about the pain impact, they reported that the pain influenced significantly areas such as their mood, their ability to exercise, their ability to wear certain clothes, and the majority of them mentioned that intimacy was highly affected. So in order to assess the help-seeking behaviors of women, women were asked what healthcare professionals they have visited for their pain. And medical specialists, as you can see on the top of the screen, were most frequently visited, followed by general practitioners, physiotherapists, and then psychologists. Alternative medicine practitioners, sex therapists and counselors, as well as nutritionists were not as frequently visited. However, women were able to choose more than one option in the survey. So this shows that how many different healthcare providers women had to visit for their vulvodynia, as well as the multifactorial nature of the condition, as they had to visit not only specialists, but also GPs, physiotherapists, psychologists, and so on. And this also highlights the different needs of women when trying to figure out how to treat their pain and what's causing their pain. I think what's really important to show here, the findings, is that when women were asked how many different GPs they visited for their vulvodynia, they reported that they had to visit more than 5, also more than 5 different medical specialists for their pain. So this highlights a possible lack of continuity of care for women, but also further demonstrates what previous research has shown about the long process of receiving care, potentially the lack of awareness, having to visit multiple healthcare professionals, and the need for women to fight and persist in order to get treatment and potentially a diagnosis. So when I interviewed women about their help-seeking experiences, that shed more light into their help-seeking behaviors and what they've been experiencing so far. So overall, women express their frustration at the long process of getting help for their pain, as well as at the uncertainty and lack of awareness about the condition and its impact on the physical and mental well-being. And they highlighted that medical care is not being made readily available for women with vulvodynia. So for instance, a participant said, I was seeking treatment, but no one knew really what was happening. And everyone was like, well, at this point, we've tried antibiotics, antifungals, and nothing. So it must be in your brain. I shouldn't have had to struggle nearly 2 years of not really knowing what that was and trying to find the right provider. There was also uncertainty and confusion as to where to seek help from and what medical professionals to see. So participants said that it's still seeming a bit mysterious as to who you should actually go and see in terms of a medical professional. And what was really interesting was that some women mentioned that seeking help for their condition felt like a constant battle. They felt like they were not provided with the care and time needed in healthcare settings. And many participants also said that they had to seek help privately at a personal financial cost to receive care and find relief from their symptoms. So one participant said, I went to see a private physiotherapist because when I tried to see an NHS physiotherapist, I was told there's no referral pathway for people like me. This is quite a disappointing picture. And also, this is a quote from what participants said. So they were told it's just the vulva, so they should just move on and accept the pain. And so many women mentioned that their pain and symptoms were minimized and downgraded, making them feel abandoned and dismissed. They described feeling as if they were expected to accept and learn to live with the pain. So this woman said, I had a few doctors that would just tell me, it's all in your head. I was almost in tears because I was in so much pain. And he looked at me and he laughed. And he was like, you shouldn't be in any pain at all. Another participant said, you are repeatedly told, I can't see anything with it. It looks healthy. There's nothing wrong, but you know there's something wrong. he was like, well, I'm not going to prescribe it for you because you shouldn't be on it. It's a nothing condition. So then again, this further demonstrates the negative experiences of women with vulvodynia. And a last theme that came up was that the patient becomes the expert. So participants described that how, in order to find relief and manage their symptoms, they had to learn how to advocate for themselves. So this involved doing their own research into their symptoms and their likely cause. And these women had to actively demand treatment and support. And of course, they described their determination to insist in seeking help despite their challenges of this for their well-being. So participants said that my experience is that I've managed my own care. At this point, I know more about this condition than most doctors. I have read 90% of the papers that are out there about this condition. It's hard to advocate for myself at this point when I've been disregarded so many times. And another participant said, I kind of gave up on saying, hey, can you help me? Because I didn't think they would help me. So I diagnosed myself and basically went to the doctors and said that I think I have vulvodynia. So overall, women with vulvodynia have negative experiences of seeking help, which are characterized by multiple visits to healthcare professionals, a large gap between symptom onset and obtainment of diagnosis. And this can lead to disappointment, confusion, as well as whilst demonstrating a lack of referral pathways to specialists. And having to seek help privately, women mentioned that this led to more positive help-seeking experiences as they received more attention to their symptoms and pain experience. But this could show possible health inequalities, as the same standard of help is not being accessible to all women who struggle with it. And also, the lack of sensitivity and awareness about the condition can have detrimental effect on women's mental health as well as help-seeking behaviors. Because if we consider the limited understanding of vulvodynia, not only do women have to make sense of their individual symptoms, but they also have to understand the condition itself. So it is vital that women feel heard and validated. And also having to be a strong advocate for themselves, this can also demonstrate possible health inequalities, as women have to be able to acquire the knowledge and insist in demanding care. But also women who do not have the resources to do so or the knowledge to demand care are oblivious as to why they're experiencing pain in the first place, as well as how to manage their symptoms and seek treatment. So moving on to the second part of my research that was focused on partner role. So the plan was to recruit women in both heterosexual and homosexual couples. However, considering this was a small study, we were only able to recruit women in heterosexual couples. So that's what the research is focused on. So when investigating the role of partners, most women reported that their partners were overall very supportive and understanding of their pain. However, it was also reported that vulvodynia can be a foreign concept to their partners. So for instance, women reported that partners are there and there's someone who listens. So partners are they offer emotional support, and that's the main thing. There's someone who's there to listen to you and validate that what you're going through is not okay and that it is not fair. Women also reported that they find solutions together with the partner. So for example, one participant said that it's really been just like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what the noise is. It's been just talking through things with my husband. And it feels like kind of the other pain that the person experienced before. And well, they suggested, why don't you try this or something similar? So women reported that that's been quite helpful. However, some women reported that although their partners were really supportive of their pain, vulvodynia was still a foreign concept to them, and it had put a strain on their relationship due to a limited understanding, which led to avoidance and fear to initiate pain, as well as extreme worry. So one participant mentioned that they're frozen in this state of fear and that they avoid each other. They keep being distracted from engaging with one another. And another participant said that they did go out of their way to try and help their partner, but it was them who said, we'll get you private help. But they also said that if you asked him what I've got, he wouldn't be able to tell you. It's quite an isolating condition, and I couldn't talk to my partner about it and him understand that I was actually in pain. So although partner support is critical in vulvodynia, negative responses were rarely reported in the sample, such as irritation or frustration towards their partners. And interestingly, it was women themselves who felt frustration and anger at the negative effects of vulvodynia on their intimate relationship. And that's also considering them helplessness and hopelessness with the help-seeking experiences. So some participants revealed that the negative effects on their intimate relationships motivate them to keep seeking help and finding solutions. So although vulvodynia has a very negative effect, it also appeared to have a positive effect on women persisting and seeking help. Therefore, although partners' role seems to be critical, women's emotional states and sense-making of the effects of the condition are important to consider too. And also something else that came up in the interviews is that women reported feeling lonely and isolated, irrespective of partner support. And that was because women expressed frustration at the lack of peer support and general public awareness about vulvodynia. For instance, a very popular outlet of support and useful resource women mentioned was online communities on social media. However, it was also mentioned that unmoderated online activity can lead to increased anxiety and frustration, which could then be counterproductive in providing support. So some concluding points about my research and what this study adds to the research on vulvodynia so far is that help-seeking experiences are indeed negative, and they're characterized by confusion and frustration. Women feel dismissed and unbelieved, and therefore it is important to improve healthcare access and the care provided by minimizing the possible health inequalities in receiving care for vulvodynia. So it is vital to create accessible resources and guidelines for all women about where to seek help, from what specialists to see, and what treatment options are available for women to try. So it's also important that future research should aim to improve education and the societal acknowledgement about the condition to reduce the stigma associated with vulval pain and specifically vulvodynia. And lastly, whilst partners are a vital part of the pain experience and are aware of the condition in a unique way, having someone to speak to who experiences a similar situation, or being able to communicate your pain to friends and family, appears to be of utmost importance to women. So future research should investigate other outlets of support. So that was a brief description of my study. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Athina. That was brilliant. And we've got a few people joined us live, and a couple of people have ducked out to go back to work, but that's okay. The replay will be here. I'm sitting here and I'm watching, and I'm sort of shaking my head going, we've heard this time and time again, and yet we need the research, don't we, to really put in front of people and say, this is what's going on. So this is really important. What are you hoping will happen as a result of your research?
I think it's important that women feel heard, and that their experiences are being heard by people in general and by healthcare providers. And I feel like researchers is important to focus on what women need when doing research for vulvodynia. What do they, because of course it's hard to find treatment options when the nature of vulvodynia is considered to be multifactorial. But women might, for example, need the support, might need to focus more on creating resources or guidelines. So I think focusing on what women need is important in future research.
And on the multifactorial factors, my fellow trustee Winston DeMello is watching on YouTube. Thanks for joining, Winston. And he asks about the hot cross bun diagram. In your survey, how many accepted those multifactorial factors?
I think the focus of my survey was not on the causes of vulvodynia. So this is when I explained that it was more about the background, just to show that there are multiple factors that could cause vulvodynia. It was mostly focused on the treatments and the doctors and the healthcare providers that have visited. So there wasn't any question about what caused their pain or anything like that.
Yeah.
If that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was really about hearing patient voices, wasn't it? And
Yes.
and experiences.
And getting a picture of their behaviors and how many healthcare providers they visited. But then the interviews were able to tell me a bit more about the actual experiences and why they had to visit so many doctors and the years they had to insist.
Jen asks, I may have missed it, but why did you choose such a study? Well, you were talking about the disappointment in this area, that it's so under-researched, the inequity, really.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that every time I've mentioned that I'm doing my dissertation on vulvodynia, no one seems to know what vulvodynia is. And I didn't know even before deciding to do the study. So I was interested in women's health, but finding out, and chronic pain. So finding out that women experience this type of chronic pain and the struggle and the frustration associated with it, it was truly disappointing. And also seeing that there's no research about it. Women are not being heard and they're being unbelieved. It's frustrating to hear that that you go to the doctor and you're just being dismissed, and you have to accept that this is what I have to live with for the rest of my life. And also how unfortunate it is for the women who do not have the knowledge or the resources to do the research, to try and find what's causing their pain, as well as, you know, being able to demand and consistently going to the doctors and asking what's wrong with me. That's something that many women might not be able to do. So it's really frustrating to realize that.
Yeah. So you knew going in that there was an issue in this area, that patient voices weren't being heard. Were you surprised by some of what you heard?
I think I was surprised when women said that they've been told it's a nothing condition. So, or it's just the vulva. So you have to just, you know, you're a woman, so you experience pain anyway. So what are you talking about? That kind of thing I was shocked when women said that to me. And also interviewing women and listening to their experiences and seeing how emotional they were about all this. And I think what I thought about vulvodynia was that there wasn't awareness and many doctors maybe didn't know how to help. But that was all I thought I didn't realize the emotional consequences, the negative emotional consequences for women. It was surprising to hear that.
And now I guess in a way you've had your eyes opened even more, and this stuff, you know, won't be surprising for some people listening, but it will be surprising for others, which is what we want, because we want action here. What are next steps for you with regards to research?
Yeah, I want to do more research. So hopefully I'd like to do patient-focused research, so get the insights of women with vulvodynia and researchers in the field and what needs to be done. So getting, for example, a list of research priorities for vulvodynia. So that way there can be like a guide of what needs to be investigated next. And how can research help these women? Because at the end of the day, that's what the aim is, to help these people struggling with vulvodynia.
Are you asking for people to perhaps contact you or let us know research directions? Would you like that? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so research priorities and ultimately with the aim of helping more. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, of helping more and keeping participants and then women's voice in mind and listening to what they have to say.
Yeah.
Because you can only, I think personally, you can only help women and the people who struggle with it if you listen to what they have to say.
Yeah.
And what their experiences are.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the helplessness, hopelessness cycle, and you mentioned that within a relationship, but also mentioned that actually that motivated some people to seek help.
Yeah, that was an interesting contrast, I think. Some people were, some participants were said that, well, I just feel that there's nothing I can do, so I kind of like give up. But others were thinking, no, I have to insist, I have to persist, I'm going to find out the right treatment for me. I know it's vulvodynia that I have, so I'm just going to continue and persist until I find help. Or they demand, like to say, I need to find a physiotherapist that would help me, or I found this pain specialist that could help me. So they are motivated to keep seeking help. But they also mentioned that this was because of the negative effects on their relationship and everyday life, I suppose. And what was really interesting is they mentioned that although their partners were really, like, they were supportive and understanding of their pain, it was women themselves who were frustrated and angry at what was happening to them. And that was completely out of their control.
And it's unsurprising if they are turning up to their GP, say, or a health professional, and being dismissed, saying it's all in, you know, it's a
all in your head.
nothing condition.
Yeah.
That I
It's
can't.
a nothing condition.
It's a nothing condition.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because vulvodynia is supposed to be an umbrella term for vulval pain, but still, it's not a nothing condition if there are women who report pain and they have to struggle with it every day.
Yeah. And you were talking about care pathways, and we have covered a little bit of that within our previous live stream. So if people are wondering, they can check those out on our YouTube channel, and I'll pop the link up to our YouTube channel as well. Anything else you wanted to mention, Athina, as we're wrapping up?
Oh, I think that was all about my research and vulvodynia.
Yeah, thank you so much for looking into this area and giving the space to allow patients to voice their experiences. This is so important, and if we can learn from the experiences of people who live with vulvodynia, then you're right, you know, more research, we can look at the priorities, but ultimately we want better care sooner than 2 years. That 2 years from onset of symptoms to finding appropriate treatment. And out of the 10 people that you interviewed, you had the in-depth interviews on, 5 were diagnosed and 5 were self-diagnosed. So again, we need to get better at this. There's a quick message here. Let me just have a quick. This is so. It'll be 20 years since I got diagnosed this Christmas after years of no diagnosis. 20 years. I'm exhausted. I would love vulvodynia and other vulval pain to be added to sexual health education. Just how endometriosis is now getting showcased on there. And she's saying, thank you, Athina, for a great overview of your research, and thank you for raising the profile for us. Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better. Thank you so much, Athina. And as I mentioned, we don't run live streams as regularly as we used to during lockdown, but you will find recordings of our past events on our YouTube channel, and I'm going to pop the link up now for you to check out. So if there's any part of this you didn't quite catch, you can rewatch this, and you can check out some of the other clinicians and researchers that we have had on. And we've covered best practice in treating vulvodynia, multidisciplinary care, preparing for appointments, physiotherapy, vulval skin conditions, so dermatology, psychosexual medicine and intimacy with the vulval pain we've covered, pain science and calming the nervous system, no prizes for guessing who covered that one. Menopause, yoga, so much more that we have already covered, and they are on our YouTube channel. So do check those out. Please remember, we are a small team of volunteers at the Vulval Pain Society. We all work in some capacity in the field of pain with patients or training clinicians. So bear with us if you contact us. We may not reply as quickly as we'd like. In the meantime, you may find your questions can be answered by the resources on our website, and I will share the details to that too. Or via the videos with specialists on our YouTube channel. Keep an eye on our social media pages on Facebook, on Twitter in particular, or X, or whatever they're calling it these days. Please continue sharing our posts or retweeting, re-Xing, so you can get resources and messages out. We want to get those resources and messages out to even more people. We are immensely grateful for everyone who already shares our posts, retweets, and spreads the spreads the word around the world. So thank you so much for that. Thank you from Athina and from me today, and thank you, Athina, for your time and your work in this field and your ongoing work in this field as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for being with us live or on the replay. Bye for now. See you next time.
Bye.